Before we begin, I want to make clear that the book I am reading to you is the second edition of my book, which has yet to be released. So, if you want to get an idea of how the story is going to go, please, I encourage you to check out my first edition, which is currently available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Thank you.
Immortal Series, Immortality Found, by Caden Wolfe. Chapter 1. A Boy's Destiny Unfolds. I look at the scales as an army recruiter moves the weights to balance it out. My heart races while I start to think that maybe, just maybe, trying to get into the military is a bad idea. I mean, yeah, I've been trying to take destiny into my own hands. I want to prove that I define my own destiny. I just want to live a normal life. I know I got an unusual mutation that makes me different, but I just want to be like everyone else. Why? Why must my life always end up so different than a normal person? Why must everything in my life become extraordinary? I mean, when I was just 4, maybe 5 years old, I was just a normal kid. Though one of my earliest memories that made me feel out of place was how my mother kept on saying that I was destined for greatness because I have a birthmark on the back of my head. She said that I will be a strong leader because my birthmark is that of a wolf's paw with reptile-like claws. I still try to ignore those words. However, the memory I cherish the most was during a party my mother was having at our house. I was playing outside in the front yard with a toy I called a shifty bot as a family of Native Americans moved furniture into their new home next door. As time passed, I noticed that their son, who is only about 3 months older than me, was staring at me through the fence. My nerves started to go on edge as I couldn't help but feel like he was some weirdo and jumped when he suddenly spoke up.
Hello.
I let out a nervous squeak and pulled my toy to my chest protectively before I said,
Hello? I noticed that you're playing with that toy there and I was wondering, you mind to come over with mine? It's the enemy of your bot.
I blinked in shock.
Wait, what?
He held it up for me to see.
See?
I got up and rushed over to the fence.
How did you find that? I looked all over for him and I couldn't. I got lucky. My parents found it at the superstore in my old town and got it as my Christmas present. So can I come over so we can have an epic battle of good versus evil?
Excited, I started bouncing up and down.
Heck yeah! Come on over!
A bright smile had spread across his face before he rushed around the fence.
By the way, my name's Mitch Rivers. What's yours? Lucas Krent.
After that first moment, we wound up having a blast playing games with our toys. Everything was fine. Granted, I didn't find out until recently that my father wanted to chase him away because he never trusted people of native blood for some reason. It took my mother embarrassing him in front of her friends by threatening Mr. Happy if he tried anything to chase Mitch away. With Mitch's help, I found out that the place we lived in was a city in the flatlands of Nevada. We did this by listening close to our parents and peeking at their mail. We didn't exactly want to ask because we wanted to find out on our own. I remember how our parents caught us trying to be junior spies and our mothers laughed at how cute we were acting. After a few weeks, once my father stopped gritting his teeth and wanting to chase Mitch away, he introduced us to some of the rock groups from back in the 80s. I quickly got hooked on the long-haired look and decided to grow my hair out to gain that look myself. Mitch decided to do that with the additional reason of embracing his Crow family heritage. Seeing us act out the guitar plays of the songs helped my father feel even more comfortable with Mitch. I would say more on the early years, but just imagine an 80s rock-fueled pair of boys and extend that for a few years. In that time, we found out that I started growing taller early and was having to look down at Mitch for the most part. Other than that, nothing weird really occurred. Well, that is until we reached the ripe age of 8 years old. For some strange reason, Mitch had this weird urge to do what most natives call the spirit walk, so he disappeared to the closest forest for some time in the summer. In that time, I decided to use my parents' computer to do some research online about the connections between Crow natives and the spirit walk. Nothing. Although, even though I didn't believe in all that spiritual mumbo-jumbo, something about the magical aspects interested me. Funny thing was that I almost gave up on the interest when Mitch came home with the weirdest native name that I have ever heard of. That name, which I still hate using to this day, is Quicktide. Now the only reason I use his native name is because when we turned 10, we gained 3 friends that liked using his native name. We first met them during lunch at school. Mitch and I were sitting at a table alone, talking about starting up a modern-day big-haired rock and roll band when the 3 came over and sat with us. Derek Hornstrom, our friend who has strong roots in Germany, was the first to speak. Yeah, no? We've seen you two sitting by yourselves and hardly socializing with the rest of the school, so we decided to come over and see what you two were like. I looked at him confused. Okay? Kind of an odd reason to talk to people, but sure. John McClarrick, a redhead that moved here with his family from Scotland, spoke up as his homeland accent rang strong. Despite what Derek here said, I simply thought you looked like good people. Richie Santos, who has roots in Brazil, points at John. I'm with him on this one. Not quite sure what Derek's getting at about being social with you because you look antisocial. Like you said, that's just weird. Okay. Derek sighed. I admit I worded that weird. Mitch pointed at him with his fork. There is no way to change what you said to make it sound not weird. The rest of us laughed as Derek's expression dropped to slight irritation. Alright. Anyway, if you don't mind me asking, what's with the long hair? You two trying to look like girls or something? I simply glared at him. Keep talking like that, and we'll go from potential friends to instant enemies after I kick your butt so hard you'll need a pillow under each foot just to walk. As Mitch and Richie snickered, John looked from Derek to me before saying, What the? Did a monkey kick my uncle's arse and I missed it? Mitch, Richie, and I all burst into laughter because John's phrase came so far out of left field. I tried hard to catch my breath as my voice cracks. What in the world was that? Oh, what the phrase? It's something my grandpa taught me to say when I would get confused in a tense situation. I love it! I laughed out. Dude, never change! With a deep breath, Mitch turned back to Derek. Anyway, to answer your question, we grew out our hair to look like them wicked long-haired rock and roll bands from the 80s. We started growing our hair out at the same time, but my hair grew out longer thanks to my Crow heritage. Oh! His answer shocked Derek. Okay, I can get behind that. So, what's your names? I'm Mitch Rivers. Quicktide if you want to go by my native name. I just held up my left index finger and said flatly, Lucas Krent. You're still mad at me, aren't you? Derek asked. You still yet to prove to me that I can trust you to not say stupid things like you did. Oh, I'll still say stupid things, but it'll be just to joke around and mess with you. That's just how I am. Leaning in, John spoke in a stage whisper. Just prepare yourself to punch him many times. I know me and Richie have. Don't be giving him any ideas. I already get bruises from you two. Since Mitch was sitting next to him, he got a devious grin upon his face. Is that so? So would it hurt if I... Ow! Mitch gently elbowed Derek in the arm, causing him to crack his voice for a second. Yeah, that hurts. Then you better get ready for worse bruises because... He lifted his shirt sleeve on his right arm up to show a dark bruise. Lucas here has a sharp left and right hook. I glared at him as I grumbled. Doesn't help that I got bony knuckles. Richie raised a brow at me. If that's the case, then don't change. If your punches hurt that much, then you don't need a weapon to protect yourself down the line. You will be the weapon. I looked at my fist. Yeah, well, I'd rather focus on my brain than anything. As much as into rock as I am, I'd rather be prepared for down the line. Mitch chuckled while he shook his head. You should see how hard he's been studying. Knowledge comes naturally for me, but he's trying his hardest to keep up. I'd catch up if you didn't ace about 99% of your assignments, quizzes, and tests. I heard about your smarts. John laughs. You two are crazier than a midget performing high-flying kung fu on a tightrope. I snorted at his comment. Where do you come up with these phrases? My grandpa. Your grandpa's an awesome man from the sounds of it. He is. Now, we gonna be friends or we gonna get it on like Genghis Khan and have an all-out brawl? I pointed right at him. Okay, I see a very strong friendship with you because you're funny. You two... I pointed between Derek and Richie. I'm curious where we end up. Derek suddenly went Valley Girl as he said, Oh my gosh, you're like so mean. Ow! I kicked him in the shin, causing him to laugh in pain as I say, If this is how you're going to be, We'll be somewhat friends where you get bruised quite often. He laughed. I'll be fine with that. After that, we got along quite alright. Mitch, Richie, John, and I had little issues, whereas Derek kept on laying on the girly attitude now and then, knowing full well I hated that. So, needless to say, he got hit at least once a day by my hand. However, to my dismay, my normal life started to change within 3 years down the line. We were at lunch during our first year of junior high, chatting it up and giving each other grief. Derek was going extra ham just to see how many times it would take for me to give up hitting him when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A boy with red hair that, in some people's perspective, would have been considered the word I hate using, cute, was looking our direction. All I knew about him in general was that he was a transfer student from Quebec, Canada. Now, at first I thought he was looking at us and wanting to strike up a friendly conversation. However, that feeling changed when he started making his way towards us, and I noticed that his eyes were directly on me. My nerves were shooting rapidly with questions. What the heck? Why is he looking at me specifically? Is he wanting to start a fight? Wait. Why does he look so nervous? Is he blushing? Nervously, he spoke up as he stood near our table. Hey. I know you got these guys around you and all that, but would it be possible that you would go out on a date with me? Huh? Is this guy... Are you gay or something? Mitch had cut my thoughts off, apparently thinking the same thing I was. It then got brought to my attention through soft humming that Derek was staring at me. I look at him, confused. I wanted to say something, but I was so dumbstruck that the transfer student suddenly asked me out. And he's laughing. Why is he laughing? His laughing caught Richie's attention to where he asked before I could. Dude, what's so funny? Trying hard to catch his breath, Derek pointed at me. Take a look at Lucas. I just realized he's starting to look like a chick! I glared at him, using my foot, kicking him several times in the knee. Shut it, shorty! The others burst into laughter as I turned towards the exchange student to see that he had turned extremely embarrassed at the realization that he just asked a boy on a date. He ran off, covering his face. I'll be honest, I actually felt bad for him. After he was out of sight, I looked around and noticed something off with Mitch. Hearing their laughter, his was the only one that sounded somewhat forced. It was almost as if he didn't want to laugh in the situation, but he did for some reason. I slammed my head down on the table as their laughter started to settle down. Mitch's laughter stopping quicker than the others. I then heard him speak up in concern. Lucas? You alright? Of course I'm not alright. I'm supposed to be a man, a manly man, a man of all men. I'm supposed to be a big buff man with long flowing hair and full facial hair. I just got mistaken as a girl and that cuts me deep. I grumbled and spoke into the table. What do you think? Well, if all else fails... John started in, trying to think of something witty. You can always be one of them sexy runway models with the secret of being a man. I looked up and glared at him. You wanting to be bruised next? Oi, oi! John was shocked that I responded that way. I was only joking. I know what you said when we first met. But what if you're one of them types that can look male or female with the length of your hair? What are you saying? I lifted my head up slightly with a raised brow. Well, what if you look more girly with long hair and more manly with short hair? Considering how you are, you might want to try cutting your hair short. No shorter than stubbles. Going completely bald I think would look weird on you. Richie thinks about it as well. Maybe add in a goatee and you can look like one of them hard rockers you'd see anymore. I keep my brow raised. As cool as that sounds, I got a feeling that having my hair cut short is going to feel weird. He rubbed the top of his head as he laughed nervously. Yeah, you'd be right on that. You suddenly feel lightheaded after losing all the weight of your hair. But look at it this way. It's a lot cooler in the summer, less to worry about, cheaper on shampoo, you won't look so much like a girl. Yeah, there's all those positives, but I don't know. I want to look like a man, but I like taking care of my long hair. It may be the years I've had long hair, but I actually like taking care of it. Then again, I hate being seen as a girl more, so... I had let out a deep sigh. Alright, I'll talk to my parents and see about having my hair cut short. The others look like they're in support of my decision, but something in Mitch's eyes. He seems to be hesitant to say something. It's probably better this way. Hesitation was clear in his throat in that moment. I mean, we both decided to grow our hair out, but you were never really able to pull off the manly long hair look like me. Did he just... Since he was sitting next to me, I took the opportunity to punch him sharply in the upper right arm. Shut it, Quicktide! Still hate using that name for him, but it's become habit now. He laughed as he rubbed where I hit him. I'm just messing with you. But hey, just remember this. Whatever choice you go with, you'll always have my support. The way he said that? What exactly is going through that brain of his? I took a deep breath and let out a deep sigh. I'm going through with it. You know me. You remember what happened to Derek here last time he decided to go all super girly around me? Something about a guy acting like a girl irritates me. Derek shivered. That was a bad day for me. You really did follow through with your word and made it necessary for me to walk with pillows on my feet. You really know how to make someone hurt. I shrugged my shoulders. That was basic biology of the human anatomy through the nervous system. You lost me at biology. How are you even in the same grade as us? I've been asking myself the same question. After that moment, the day went on like it normally did. When Mitch and I got home, we parted ways and I went into my home alone. I walked up to my mother and told her that I wanted to cut my hair short. She flat out refused, saying she couldn't take away my cuteness. Dad, however, was willing to do it. He saw how I, his son, was starting to look too much like a girl. So, he got the clippers out and shaved off my hair to where they were less than half an inch in length. After he got the loose hairs off me, I stood up and... woof, really lightheaded. Easy, Lucas. Dad grabbed me by the shoulders to make sure I kept my balance. He helped me up to my room so I could take some time to adjust to short hair. After he left my room and shut the door, my mother started ragging on him about cutting my hair. With a deep breath, I stood up and walked over to my closet door, which had a mounted mirror. I looked at myself and couldn't help but notice something. I had nothing physically in common with my parents. I had blonde hair while Mom had brunette and Dad raven. My eyes were deep blue while theirs were both brown. Heck, even my facial features didn't even match up with or even was a mix of my parents. The gears started turning in my head. That very night, I decided to research on how to become a hacker. However, my research, programming, and testing got cut short at 10 because I needed to get to bed to be rested for school the next day. Come morning, I walked out and noticed Mitch leaning against the end post of the fence. When I got up next to him, I groggily groaned. Morning. He looked at me with a raised brow. Who are you? Did he really just ask that question? How do you not recognize me? We've been friends for how many years now? The shock, apparently, had hit him so hard he nearly fell over. What? Lucas? Holy crap! You really do look different with short hair. Yeah, and it does feel weird, but I'll get used to it. I looked at him and he was just chuckling. Yeah, I can imagine. Hey, mind I ask something of you? This is coming out of nowhere. Sure? Considering how close we've been all these years, might I start calling you my brother? I mean, I feel like we're more like family than just friends. I grin as I hold my hand up to him. Yeah, I feel the same way. He interlocks his thumb with mine as we grip our hands together as if we're getting ready to arm wrestle. Then we are brothers from now on. I was happy for that moment. After that day, I noticed that an astounding number of girls started to approach me to ask for a date. There was even a femboy that approached me at one point. I turned them all down because I just didn't feel ready to get into a relationship. In the following years, it had become a routine of school, hacker, programming, doctors and gym visits, and the occasional hanging out with my friends. Now, most people would see much of that as normal, aside from the hacker bit. However, the doctors and gym visits actually have a unique meaning for me. See, something my parents and I noticed was that my growth had started to slow down as my friends' growth sped up. That and my body was refusing to grow anything pertaining to facial and body hair. So I had Dad sneak me off to the doctors for testosterone shots. I didn't want the embarrassment of having my friends know that I was struggling to be a man physically. The gym visits were to see if heavy lifting would hyperactivate my natural testosterone. To my dismay, it didn't work. Even worse is that I didn't even gain any muscle mass as my strength increased. On the bench, I was able to lift a whopping 1,000 pounds of weight on each side of the dumbbell by the age of 17. Those visits I let Mitch join me on because he wanted to get stronger himself. Needless to say, everyone was in awe that I could do that, as well as push the treadmills beyond their limits, and started asking me to train them to lift that much weight. I said no because I wasn't a professional trainer. Didn't stop me from giving pointers though. One of the things that also increased over time was my shirt sizes. Something weird was going on with my body figure and I did everything I could to hide it. Just another thing I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of my friends with. On a plus note, my self-taught hacking training gave me something I was looking for. By the time I was 16, I found out the truth about my heritage. Turns out the ones I thought were my parents aren't. I confronted them about it and they told me the truth. They were, still are, friends with my real parents. They gave me their number and I started talking to my birth father. Only sad thing was, I found out that my birth mother died years prior. Even with all this happening in my life, I still drove to live a normal life. However, all that normalcy came to an abrupt end during the spring of senior year. John was looking at me as we walked up to the school first thing in the morning. It was like he suddenly came up with questions that he should have thought about long ago. I tried to ignore his staring until I felt his hand touching my left cheek. I acted quickly, using the back of my left hand to slap his away. What the hell? Why are you touching my face like that? Yow! John pulled his hand back and shook it from the sharp pain. You gotta slap mightier than those hammer here. Sorry, but I just noticed something weird. Have you guys noticed how Lucas's face is uncannily smooth? Hell, his face is smoother than Quicktide's. Richie and Derek looked at him as if he was talking ancient Greek as Mitch, who outgrew me by a lot, walked over and stood in front of me. Come on. Like that's even... The moment his palms touched my cheeks, he suddenly fell silent, causing Richie to raise a brow at him. Quicktide? Something wrong? Mitch's hands have yet to leave my cheeks. My brain is telling me that I need to slap his hands away, but something about the way his hands feel against my face. My heart is keeping me from lashing out to his touch. What the hell is going on with me all of a sudden? Mitch finally found his voice. Lucas, is there something you're not telling us? Even with shaving, there still should be a hint of facial hair. I'm not feeling anything. I had let out a sigh as I reached up and gently pulled his hands down, my eyes lowering to the ground. Yeah, there's something I hadn't been telling you all. Truth is, I can't grow facial hair. And as Quicktide can attest, I can't grow muscle either. Aside from the gym visits you guys are aware of, I've been going to the doctors to try and see if they could help me grow facial hair with testosterone boosters, creams, and more. Nothing. Is that what it was? Derek decided to go all Valley Girl gay boy in this situation. OMG. And here I thought you came to school with a tip for being a good little slut. Did he really just... He had spoken like that before, but this time, it felt like he was stabbing me right in the heart. My anger rose dangerously fast to where I quickly felt heat rising from my head. In less than a second, I had balled my hand into a fist and punched him in the face as he was laughing. I tried to hold back as much as I could, but apparently it was still enough to send him flying off into the grass a good 8 feet away. People around, students and staff alike, stopped and went wide-eyed at what just transpired. Derek laid on his right side as he covered his left cheek with both hands and screamed out in pain. The crowd chattered as Richie ran over to check on Derek while John softly says to me, "Okay, your slap might be stronger than Thor's hammer, but it's quite obvious that your punches is a combination of Thor's hammer, Zeus's thunderbolts, God's wrath, and the devil's might." Lucas? Mitch's voice sounded highly concerned. "You've got blood dripping from your hand." Say what now? Even in my anger, confusion took hold as I lifted my right fist up and saw not just blood, but also skin. Wait, seriously? Richie yelled from Derek's side. That's where these 4 missing lines of skin went? The sight of the blood on my fist dropped my heart as my body began to quake in fear and regret. I looked over at Derek and wanted to say something, but he quickly pointed at me and screamed, "You stay away from me, you freak!" Whoa! John holds his hands up. To be fair, you kinda had it coming. Derek started to get up in anger only to be held back by Richie. "I'm gonna kill ya!" Hearing him say that turns my body's quakes into full-out tremors. But, Mitch? He stepped in between me and Derek to say, "Okay, that's enough. First off, will everyone just gawking move the hell along? This ain't no shit show to watch." The teachers agreed with what he said and started ushering everyone but the nurse inside as John pulled his cell phone out. "I'll call the medics." "Will you sit down and calm your ass?" Richie screamed at Derek. If you don't, then I'll be the next to punch you and it will be in the same place Lucas hit you. Grumbling, Derek said, Okay, fine. As the nurse began to patch Derek's cheek to stop the bleeding, Mitch turned around and placed his hands on my shoulders. It's okay, Lucas. Everything is going to be alright. Right. It won't be alright until I talk to Derek and apologize. And he's hugging me. This is weird, yet it's surprisingly inviting coming from him. I did what I could to look around him at Derek, only for Derek to scream. No! Don't you dare talk to me, you freak of nature! Ow! Damn it, bitch!
You know what?
The nurse spoke up in irritation.
You are grounded, young man. Also,
she pressed on his cheek. Gah! What the hell?
That is for calling me a bitch.
I honestly forgot that the school nurse here is Derek's mother. By the looks of it, she kind of reached her limit with her son's attitude. The EMTs are on their way. John sighed. But, seriously, you kind of brought this upon yourself, Derek. We all know how Lucas is concerning those particular jokes of yours. This last one? That was as tasteful as a lemon covered in cat piss and skunk spray. Richie gagged at that one. Just the sound of that sounds disgusting. All the same, I had cut in, heart fallen deep into the pit of my stomach. If this is how things are going to be, then maybe it is best you all lead me to my own devices. Especially since I'm pretty much a hazard to your health. Fine with me, Derek spat.
Let's get you over to the sidewalk to get ready for the EMT's arrival,
Derek's mother said as she helped him stand up. As she took him over to the sidewalk, Richie right behind them, John looked over at me and said, I don't know about them in Quicktide here, but I want to at least keep in contact with you. In fact, how about I be a bit of a spy for you? Mitch raised a brow at him. What do you mean? I stick close to Derek to make sure he doesn't spread any lies about Lucas here. Hell, I'll even make sure your ass is covered as well. Nervously, I said as my head lowered into my shoulders. You don't really need to do that, John. Hey, I made a promise the first day we met that I would be your friend for life. When did you say that? Well, it was a promise I made in my head. But, yeah. I'll keep in contact, okay? If you wish. With a smile, he walked off after the three. I turned to look at Mitch to find him grabbing my right hand and holding it up between us like when we first agreed to be brothers. Except, now, my hand is held up almost my eye level considering our height difference. What is he doing? I looked up at him confused as he said, I am altering the agreement we made back then. Alter it how? Let me put it this way. From now on, we will become blood brothers where our bond is made upon the blood of a fake friend. I turned my eyes from his to our hands and see that Derek's blood was then on his hands too. With a deep breath, I gripped his hand back. If this is how you really feel, then how can I say no to you? I do feel strongly about this. Then let me add in one more thing. If either of us needs help with anything, no matter how uncomfortable it is, we will selflessly accept the challenge. What if one of us needs a date to the prom? I am not wearing a dress for you if that's what you're implying. I glared at him. He laughed hard to my response. I was joking. I don't want to go to the prom anyway. Alright. I chuckled. We heard a gentle sigh to my right. We turned just in time for Derek's mom to say with a smile,
The brotherly relationship you two share is just so beautiful. I just wish that bond you two shared rubbed off on my son. But a good punch to the face, which I was socially afraid of doing myself, is a good way to get a point across.
It then occurred to me about what happened. Am I going to get expelled for this? She's shaking her head. That means I can finish high school.
Over a single hit? The worst you'll get is a disciplinary talking to from the vice principal. Other than that, as long as you don't throw any more punches, you'll be fine.
I think that can be managed.
Then you best be off to class. Don't want you to ruin your attendance record too much over this, now do you?
I looked at my watch, which was held on my right wrist, and noticed that the first warning bell was about to ring. Holy! We better get going, Quicktide. We still need to wash off our hands before class starts. Oh, yeah, let's go. We ran hard after that to make sure we got to class on time. The rest of the year finished just fine. At graduation, Mitch and I sat in the front row side by side. There are two reasons for that. The first was to make sure that no one tried to start anything stupid with us. The second was the fact that we earned the positions of valedictorian and salutatorian. Mitch had gotten the highest honors because, like I said before, he was smarter than me. So I settled for second best because Seriously, I don't mind coming in right behind him. After the principal did the opening speech, he called up Mitch to do his speech. However, our plans involved both of us going up at the same time, so I followed right behind him. The principal looked at us with confusion as he said, "I only asked Mr. Rivers to come up here." This is when Mitch simply stated, "What I have to say is what we both have to say, so we'll be taking turns saying the same speech." "Oh, well, that will help save time. Carry on then." With a nod, we approached the podium as Mitch took a deep breath. Together, we went on with the typical, "If you put your mind to it, you can do anything" speech. I made sure to look out into the audience to see if my adoptive father was continuously video recording us. Of course, he was. When we got to the end of the main speech, the crowd cheered as I prepped myself for the next part. I held up my hands to let them know that there was more. Let's be honest, we've all heard that same speech from movie stars, from public speakers, and others. We know the drill. What they never tell you is how to get there. Mitch took over the next part. "You see, you can succeed all you want, but life will never be worthwhile if you don't have people around you who supports you, who cares for you, who wants to see you live out your dreams." That's something we learned over the years by being friends. In fact, our bond led us to being more than friends. We became like brothers and we worked off each other to push ourselves to be better. Competition is great, especially if it's done as friends. However, if you compete to raise yourself up, then it only leads to you to going out into the world alone. You would be in a sea of life in a boat without a paddle. That's why bonds are important to everything in life. The crowd cheered louder than before, loving what we said. My and Quick Tight's bond is the reason we decided to pursue a job where we can work together in any situation. Through thick and thin. Through rain and heat. Through sand and snow. To fight side by side to the same goal. That is why we decided to do something outside what those stupid tests say we would be best for. Here in just a moment, we are going to walk off this stage with our degrees, which are conveniently placed here in front of us. Thank you for that, Principal Newtown. We will walk across the gym floor and out so that we can drive our way to the Army Recruitment Center. The crowd begins to chatter. You heard Lucas right. We are breaking the norm and pushing for our own path. We are going to create our own destiny. We are going to fight to make sure our skills are used to protect our country, our state, our home, our family. So, we have one last thing to say. Mitch laid his arm around my shoulders as we raised our hands up in the air to say, "Thank you all and good luck on living your dreams." All the school staff and parents looked at us in shock as the students all stood up and roared into applause. Mitch and I kept our composure as we walked off the stage and across the gym. Before we went out the door, I saw my adoptive dad with a huge smile on his face and a thumbs up as he mouthed, "That was awesome! Good luck!" I smiled back at him as I followed Mitch out to his car. His '87 Honda CRX he got for his 16th birthday sat in the lot waiting for us. It may have ridden like a brick with a half-baked engine, but it was a car that kept on going. After a while of questioning its ability to run, I eventually told myself it was just a Honda thing. The moment the wheels of his car hit the main road, we both just burst into laughter as Mitch asked, "Did you see the look on all the staff's faces?" "Yeah," I wheezed, having a hard time not laughing. "I mean, did you see Coach Hensei's face? It was all..." I forced myself to stop laughing long enough to make the most lame-brained, dumbfounded expression I could make before bursting back into laughter. The experience was so perfectly funny that we kept on laughing for several blocks.